wai inui o ke awe o la maui a ka ma o la molo ka inui a hina o la lana i kaula. O la puo a hua aka kuhi hewa. Mai ka i kaua i o mano me ni i hau i ta mole o le hua. Aloha e nā o iwi o ka moana nui a kea e o la no i e.
Au he na maka o kalani e maliu mai i nei a leo pule. He leo haa a he leo ho'o mai ka ino ho'i. E mālama mai a mākou a palekana, a puka i ke au mālama lama a puka.
Mai ka pi'ina ka la i hae hae, a hiki ka mole olu o le hua. Mai kahi pai o nei a pai aina o Hawaiʻi, a me ka moana nui a kea. Aloha kākou e. Welcome to another exciting episode of Pacific Conversations. O wau o Snowbird puanani o pau o Kalani Bento.
A o wau no o Laiana Kanoa Wong. Today's show is the first of a two-part series that takes us to Aotearoa to celebrate the Hawaiian tribe Ngāti Ruawāhia, Te Iwi Tuaono o Te Tai Tokerau, the sixth tribe of Te Tai Tokerau.
December 7th, 2020 marks 35 years since the landfall of Hōkūleʻa at Waitangi. This historic event inspired the declaration of a Hawaiian tribe, Ngāti Ruawāhia. Today in part 1, we'll learn about our Maori connections and partnerships. We'll hear from Nainoa Thompson and the original crew that sailed from Rarotonga, Cook Islands, all the way to Waitangi in 1985. And we'll learn about the rich tribal heritage that has emerged and grown over the past 3.5 decades.
But before we voyage out into the vast Pacific, we begin our journey here in Hawaii on the beautiful island of Kauai. The Kawaikini Public Charter School is a K-12 Hawaiian immersion school dedicated to raising young leaders who are grounded in their native land and language. Enjoy!
Get out. Look, look, you can see its polyps. Whoa. See its polyps? It looks like limu, yeah? Kumulei. Mana? Limu hair. Let them touch, let them explore, let them learn. We're trying to establish that because how can you care for a place if you've never been to it? How do you know what you're protecting later on? If you never went, yeah? If you're not pili to it, yeah?
We really focus on the culture, Hawaiian culture, and a lot of that has to do with respect for people, for respect for land.
So the very basics of Mano Klanipo, the island is divided into 5 moku. So 1st and 2nd grade does moku of Puna, 3rd and 4th grade does the moku of Ko'olau, 5th and 6th grade study the moku of Haleʻa, 7th, 8th grade studies the moku of Kona, and the high school studies Napali. And so as we gradually grow the students in every moku, help them identify the ahupua'a, the stream names, the wind names, the mountain names, stories and legends, songs and mele of that place.
He mea waiwai no na keiki i noho ma Hawaiʻi. Ka ike ana i ka waiwai o ko mako aina. I hiki ke hoʻohalike a hoʻopili ko mako moʻomeheu.
Ina hele mako a huakaʻi na aina he pili ma waina mako me ka aina. Hoʻi kaika ia ka iini e hoʻoulu ai kia aina no na poʻe ki mai ana na hanauna i ki mai ana.
Ai ke ala o huakaʻi mākou I ke alia o I no ke komo ana I ka hana ma ka loʻi.
O ke kahi pahu hapu nui o ka papa malao e hele a kama aina I ko lako aina.
ko lako aina hana o Kauai holoʻokoʻa, a pehea kako e aloha i kia aina. A pehea kako e mālama i ka aina, na haloa na kalau kapalili i mālama ia haloa, o iai o ia ko kako mau kupuna, pela no kako e hana iai i na keiki, pela ka lako i awa.
Ka aia mako ma kekahi wahi kapa ia o ka laimano, ai ole laimano. Ina ale lako i ke ia papa, a ole paha lako hele i ke ia mawahi. O ka pahu hopu nui no lilo lako a pili me ke ia aina, a ole pili me ka puke, pili me ke ia aina. No o lako o ke ia ko u aina, o ke ia ka wahi o ko mau kupuna. Mai kai kaua iwa. So, he pupu what? Ava. Hi.
Aia no kako ma pa'aiki, miloli'i.
Ma ke kula o ke kahi o nā pahu hoku ka lilo ana i nā haumana i ka ma'aina o Hawaiʻi. Oi aku ka ikaika o ka pilina me ka aina ke puka oi ike i ka waiwai o ka aina.
I ko'u mana o ke ola ni ko kako olelo makuahine ma ka aina. Hino leila pai no wau i nā haumana. E olelo Hawaiʻi. Aloha nui ka aina i ko olelo.
O hawe kila ana ke. Ika boy.
No ka mea o kia mau keiki na keiki o Kauai oia na keiki o kako a pau. O kela olelo na e au he ali i ka aina he kaua ke kanaka. Ua polo leiloa na kako ke kuleana o ka malamani ke awahi. Oia ko mana o lana e loli no ke kuana ike o ka lehu lilu ke ia oia ka maamau o ka ana o kako a pau.
When our community enrolls their students here at Kauai Kini, that they become part of our ohana, which means that they also take on the kuleana and also the pride of the accomplishments that we have, right? And so a lot of our funding as a charter school is spent on things like transportation and giving our keiki good food, but we also have to sustain those things, and so we need resources constantly to make sure that what we're providing is something sustainable.
I remember the first year we taught, and we were in a tent, and there were 3 grade levels. It was really difficult at times to just make sure that we were providing adequate education, culturally and academically, right? But seeing the growth in the kids and seeing the olelo still thrive through all those adversities, to me, has been inspiring.
Oh, he nani wale no Kauai, hemolele ka malie. Ho'omaikai to all of the ohana, kumu, and haumana of Kauai Kini. Such a beautiful, touching video.
I can't agree with you more, Lai. And, one of the things that was so beautiful about it was to hear the kumu and the keiki. They're not even thinking about how they're responding to each other. The kumu is asking questions, maka'olelo Hawaii, and the keiki are responding right there in it. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway of this particular video has to do with the idea of the pilina, the relationship between the keiki, their identity as keiki from Kauai, and how their curriculum builds throughout their years at the school so that they really truly become oiwi of their homeland. And in that, it solidifies their identity, and they see it through the lens of their kupuna, through the olelo.
I loved it. One of my favorite quotes is when Kumu was saying, when ke olelo Hawaii oi ka aina, hau'oli ka aina. When you speak our olelo, our land is happy. And I'm sure that is for every place on the planet. When you speak the native tongue of that area, the land responds in magical ways. And to see those keikis curriculum so well-rounded, connecting them to the whole mokupuni of beautiful Kauai, ho'omaikai ka ohana ka Waikini.
Well, I think we're ready now to venture across Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, to the land of the long white cloud, Aotearoa. We'll learn about our Ngāti Ruawāhia heritage sites at Waitangi and Aorere, and our tribal identity that's embodied in the ancestral carving, a popo named Maui Pa Ma Mau.
In December 2019, Ahamoananui traveled to Waitangi in Aotearoa to establish cultural partnerships and build educational exchanges for learners and professionals. The Pacific Consortium consists of the Polynesian Voyaging Society, Fish and Museum, University of Hawaii, and organizer Kamehameha Schools. In 1985, Hōkūleʻa made its historic landfall at Waitangi.
First time they arrived, beginning of the 1985-87 voyage of rediscovery, our chief, Sir James Henare, he seeing that you arrived here the same as how our ancestors did on the canoe, gave them the honor of being the 6th tribe of Tai Tokerau.
He talked about the 5 tribes of Tai Tokerau. He talked about the 5 canoes that defined the tribes. And then he raised the question. But you've come by voyaging canoe. So that must make you the 6th tribe of Tai Tokerau. Which was like, whoa. All of a sudden, we're not guests anymore, we're ohana.
The 6th tribe of Tai Tokerau would eventually be Ngāti Ruawāhia, a tribal heritage that has been cared for and maintained by the Kamehameha Schools and PVS extended family since 1985. Sir Hector Busby would build Te Aorere in 1990 and sell it to Hawaii in 1995. In 1992, Kamehameha Schools erected the very first representation of Ngāti Ruawāhia at Te Tai Marae. It was an ancestral Hawaiian post carved from ohia named Maui Pa Ma Mau. It stood proudly alongside other carvings of Maori ancestors for some 27 years. In 2019, the wood had badly deteriorated. Plans are made to erect a new carving to represent the future-facing Hawaiian legacy of Ngāti Ruawāhia. A special gathering took place at Te Tai Marae. Ahamoananui was received with a pōwhiri, a formal ceremony of welcome. A picture of our 4 guiding elders was placed on a sheet of kapa. Myron Pinky Thompson, Mao Piailu, Hector Busby, and Alban Ellicott. Ava was served, and a declaration of kinship was presented to the Kaumatua and Rangatira, the elders and leaders, who signed their names with pride. The heritage of Ngāti Ruawāhia and the legacy of Sir Hector Busby were sealed together in a Hawaiian Maori declaration promising that we would build educational exchanges for our youth. With regional partners like the Waitangi National Trust, which offered the Waitangi Treaty Grounds as a carving site for the new Hawaiian ancestral posts, and the Hekenukumai Busby Trust, which donated a 20-foot log of kauri wood, plans are underway for an unprecedented cross-cultural educational exchange. Maori and Hawaiian students and educators will come together to embrace our shared Ngāti Ruawāhia heritage. And as a result, they will learn more about the Pacific, the Polynesian people, our shared cultures, and our precious oceanic world. It is our hope that the new Hawaiian carving will be erected in December 2020 to mark the 35th anniversary of the 1985 landfall of Hōkūleʻa, and the birth of the Hawaiian tribe Ngāti Ruawāhia, the sixth tribe of Tai Tokerau. Ahamoana Akea extends its stewardship kuleana to nurture our Ngāti Ruawāhia heritage. This includes support for the development of the Kupe Waka Center in Aotearoa, sister center to Ka'iwa Kilo Moku, and the refurbishing of the canoe Te Aotearoa, the Maori sister of Hōkūleʻa.
Upon Hōkūleʻa's arrival at Waitangi in 1985, esteemed Maori elder of Tai Tokerau, Sir James Henare, declared that the Hawaiians, as he called them, and the extended ohana of the Polynesian Voyaging Society and Kamehameha Schools, who sailed into Waitangi on the Wakahorua Hōkūleʻa, is to be identified as the sixth tribe of Tai Tokerau. The name Ngāti Ruawāhia was decided by esteemed ocean elder and our kaumatua, Uncle Hekinuku Mainaivi Puhipi, along with other tribal leaders, to come up with the name Ngāti Ruawāhia. Ngāti Ruawāhia in Maori means the Hōkūleʻa tribe. It includes the Polynesian Voyaging Society, the Kamehameha Schools, and our extended ohana. I am very honored to be a part of Ngāti Ruawāhia history and to be its present carver. I take the name carver very seriously and not very lightly, because for a long time I didn't think I was accomplished enough to be considered a carver. To me, if you carry the title or the name of carver, it means you are established, meaning that not only can you carve images, but you can also carve a canoe. You can carve implements and utilitarian pieces that are very important and essential for everyday life, such as bowls, tools, weapons, and other kind of useful things. Ngāti Ruawāhia's first carver was William Mac Bill Puo Jr. of Opihihale, South Kona, Hawaii. He was a second generation carver and canoe builder at the Pu'uhonua Honau, learning from Uncle Grace. He carved the present Popo Maui Pamamao that's there at Waitangi today. It was erected on January 5th, 1992. Maui Pamamao Popo represents our ancestor of Ngāti Ruawāhia. Its name means Maui, that touches the furthest distance. Maui Pamamao faces the direction in which Hōkūleʻa arrived in Waitangi in 1985. I am very honored to be a part of the Ngāti Ruawāhia history and the legacy of carving Maui Pamamao. I will do my best to upkeep and uphold the kuleana of being its carver. Mahalo.
It's been a while, I think, since I've seen some of those videos, and on Ahamoana Nui Akea, I think I might have only watched it once, now that I think about it. But it was so amazing to see, because I've only been a part of this history maybe 20 years since high school time, and then now moving forward and seeing how we come full circle. But also just taking a look at how this pilina started between the Polynesian Voyaging Society, Kamehameha Schools, and the people of Waitangi and Aotearoa to create this Ngāti Ruawāhia heritage, if you will.
All right, what a huge impact in the Pacific universe that arrival would have. So many fruitful things would come, including that announcement of Hōkūleʻa being the sixth canoe to land there. So giving that honor of the sixth tribe is very significant. And you think about what are the physical symbols that remind you of the tribe, and the popo. a very Maori but also very Hawaiian way to mark a space or an entity to hold that space. And Maui Pamamao, the history of the carving from William Pu'o in Honaunau to our Hoahana Kumula'au Singh, doing an amazing job restoring and recreating the next iteration of Maui Pamamao so it can last for the next 30 plus years.
I can't agree with you more, Laiana. And just to kind of close that section out, just thinking about our rich history, and yet it's only been 35 years. Well, with that, we're going to transition over back to Laiana, and he's going to help take us through our website in some featured sections.
Yeah, welcome to our ka'iwakilomoku.kspe.edu website. We're going to navigate here through our Moana Nui Akea portion, and we're going to click on our Aotearoa link. And from Aotearoa, you see this beautiful image of the celebration, the opening of Fetu Marama in Aurere. You'll also see the Learn More section where you see a whole bunch of links, videos, and stories about Aotearoa, the places. Of course, our partnership and declarations that you'll learn more about throughout our show and throughout our Moana Nui Akea practices. And of course, Maori Voices, which covers perspectives from our Oiwi cousins like Maori TV and Maori Radio. So many things happening, coming from our Maori community. But we're going to click here on our Ngāti Ruawāhia section. And I really, really love this portion of our website. You know, this is where you can get a great understanding of Ngāti Ruawāhia. You see here in this title photo, the beautiful Wakataua Ngā Toki Mata Whaurua that Papa Heck helped to refurbish and restore. It is housed at the Waitangi Museum, greeting the Hōkūleʻa in her latest arrival to Waitangi. As you go through this page, you're going to see so much history and stories and the origins of where this name Ngāti Ruawāhia came from, how did it come to be, and what is happening with that community today. And so this portion is the initial arrival in 1985 and the impact that has had since till now. As you continue on down, you see that it's the Polynesian Voyaging Society and Kamehameha Schools who are the key Ohana Hawaiʻi that have been down there that are keeping the relationships alive for Ngāti Ruawāhia. Of course, a beautiful image of Papa Heck. And you'll get to see some of his kaumatua, the leaders that have guided him on this page. You see John Rangihau, Sir James Henare, Graham Latimer, Papa Maupi Ailug, and of course Myron Pinky Thompson. And now Papa Heck joining them as a Aumakua Okapo, guiding over all of the work that continues on with our Ngāti Ruawāhia heritage. And of course on this website you're going to see different links and ways to deepen your understanding in relationship to this heritage. We have the Mele Ngāti Ruawāhia composed by Dr. Randy Kamuela Fong and Papa Heck. You also have the Mele Waitangi, a beautiful mele composed by Tami Taurima, Kalamai. And again, you see the Te Riti o Waitangi Marae image here and the greeting and the welcome of the community to the Va'a and to the Va'a Ohana. And as you continue on, you see the evolution and the continuation and the care of our popo, Maui Pamamao. And you see from the initial raising of Maui Pamamao all the way to a recent trip just this past year in 2019. And you can continue to learn more in this section and learn more about this upcoming exciting Kupe Waka Center that is set to be open later in 2021. So to our Ohana out there watching and learning, go dive into our Ka'iwakilomoku website. Go check out the different places, but yeah, go learn more about our Ngāti Ruawāhia heritage. You'll see more background information that we're covering in this episode. You'll get much more of a rich understanding of this history and stories. Mahalo nui kako.
Mahalo Lai for taking us through the website. Coming up next is a special reunion of Hōkūleʻa crew that landed in Waitangi in 1985. Followed by reflections on Hōkūleʻa's return to Waitangi in 2014, this time with Hiki Analia, as part of the Malama Honua worldwide voyage.
Well, he leo aloha ke ia to our audience who are tuning in from all over the Honua, the Moana Nui Akea. What an honor today. We get to have our Ohana Va'a, our Hōkūleʻa special panel of the 85 crew who voyaged from Rarotonga to Waitangi. This historic landfall is filled with so much rich history and mo'olelo, and things and impacts that have happened are still reverberating throughout our honua today. We're joined today by such esteemed alaka'i, our uncles, our leaders, the people that we really look up to. We have Shorty Bertelman, Nainoa Thompson, Bruce Blankenfeld, Kalepa Babayan, Uncle Billy Richards, Uncle Harry Ho, and Stanley Conrad, some of the original crew of this 85 voyage. He aloha nui a oko pakahi. Aloha.
We wanted to start off by having some of the leadership, perhaps maybe Nainoa and Uncle Shorty, share some of your mana'o about just reflecting on the overall voyage of rediscovery. And then also we wanted to make sure that we sent our aloha, remembering those crew members who have now passed and others who may not be able to join us today. And so unable to join us today are Uncle Buddy McGuire, Tava Taupu, and James Shizuru. And then we also wanted to acknowledge those who have now passed from Aoin to Po, Uncle Heck and Auntie Hilda, Dr. Patrick Ayu, Dr. Ben Finney, Leon Sterling, and Michael Tong. And so just wanted to make sure that we say aloha to all of their families and their loved ones. And then Nainoa and Shorty, any mana'o or reflections about that voyage of rediscovery?
Well, I mean, let me begin with, like Stanley, when I got the first email that, I hadn't really thought about it. But when you invoke 35 years, that's way more than half my life. And I really become worried that one of the great dangers of our time, because the world is changing so fast and so quick, that we forget where we come from. And remembering the extraordinary, I mean, there's an infinite amount of things we learned, at least I did, but to be with the Maori and they can remember their waka. Where did it come from? Where is it buried? The establishment of their iwi and their tribes, and I mean, all of that. So the combat the forgetting, because what if we repeat history again, and our young have to go search again to find out who they are, where they come from, why they should be proud, why should they recognize they're in the genealogy and the responsibility of the greatest navigators on earth. I mean, all of that from the biggest country on the planet that we call Polynesia, mostly oceans. So I really, what I'm getting at is that this is really deep, and I'll never, ever feel comfortable about being able to answer kinds of questions that are so deep. So I am going to apologize for that right now, but also at the same time, I want to thank Kamehameha Schools, and I want to thank Kaiwa Kilamoku, and I want to thank Randy and Jamie for their vision, and I want to thank all those, Liana, Snowbird, and everyone, and Mark, and all of you that are creating the platform so we don't forget. This is a record. This story is powerful, and you're right, Randy. It's way too short. We need to take this as a beginning. Maybe it's like the introduction to a whole new way to look back and remember. So, and I what impacted me about seeing the first email, I mean, the first thing was going back to faces, those who are not here with us, those who can't be with us. But when you start thinking about, Tupi Puriri, and you start thinking about the connection Marae, and you're thinking about Hilda, and you're thinking about all those kupuna that they didn't know who we were. I mean, when I arrived there to go study the stars, all I remember, I was described as this kind of small, skinny Black Hawaiian that wants to learn about the stars, and to have it evolve now to we're seeing dreams and visions of learning centers across the Pacific, and to have Kaiwakila Moko be the va'a that connects us all instantly in a Zoom, and it matters. And so I can't be more thrilled about being a part of this, and also and just thanking folks that are voyaging on this technological va'a that connects us, and it's so desperate that we continue to do that, and allows us to be with each other. I mean, to see Stanley, and even though it's 4,500 miles away, with us in the same room. And so my aloha to you folks that put this together, my aloha to those faces that are now kind of coming back in my memory that aren't here. And you know, it hurts. Makes you want to cry, you know. Damn. Because every one of them, they're not here. They dedicated everything. They bet their lives on an idea. They bet their families that they're going to come home and that the voyage is going to matter. And it makes us remind ourselves about, why do we voyage, and why did we? This is more like about, why did we voyage, and looking at how we define the uncertain future as desperate times and the need to continue. And so I'm just babbling, but I didn't even want to begin this until I tried to give you just a tiny sense of how I'm feeling so privileged and honored to be, have the opportunity to be with this team, this group. These are handpicked crew members, handpicked. I mean, Stanley was nationally picked, you know, to represent a whole nation of a culture that's ours. My father would be confronted by a lady at Titi Marae, a stranger, and said, you know, you need to know that my name is Pa'oa, and we're family. And I mean, massive amounts of changing and the recognition of how powerful this Pacific country, the greatest country in the world, is. And so much had happened. And the Voyager Rediscovery was just, it was born out of 2 voyages to Tahiti and back in 1976 and 1980. And these other countries that were separated by colonialism would say, hey, we have the same history. We are all one family. Will you bring Hōkūleʻa to Rarotonga? Would you bring it to Samoa? Will you bring it to Tonga? Will you bring it to the Tuamotus? And the powerful requests from Aotearoa were, at the point in which we were considering doing this, I remember Uncle Hector saying, no, this is not an option. You're gonna come. You're gonna come. And it wasn't like all of us, like me, who were like always balancing risk and kind of always afraid of everything, something gonna go wrong. In his mind, no. You made a promise and you gotta come. And this would be the crew that got it there. And I would argue one of the most extraordinary experiences I ever had in my life. So I don't know, taking on talk too much time, but I'm not, because you just need to know that this is really amazing moment of privilege, but in some ways it's really sad too. But on the third piece, we have responsibility to keep things alive beyond our time. So, and the platforms are built, and the Kaiwakila Moku Wa'a is key to everything that we will do in the Pacific. So,
mahalo, Nainoa. Thank you. Mahalo. Uncle Shorty, some thoughts and reflections about the voyage? Perhaps some of the things that might have been going through your mind prior to beginning the voyage and then throughout?
Is that maybe for us in this time is to be able to contribute and support to the event for how we see it, and maybe talk about maybe the people that are not here anymore, the ones that passed. Maybe shed some light on how important everybody was. They made up this mix to make everything possible. Maybe also too into looking at the window of time when things happen. You know, when we look at Nainoa and his leadership, it's so incredible. You know, it's just his quest for seeking, answering questions and seeking knowledge and everything, and just to think to put a structure like this together to make this voyage happen. You know, just to look at his team, the people in his toolbox that help him accomplish just a dream and the start of why this is important. And then and then to actually get to Aotearoa and see for yourself, to have been part of sailing on the road, and to get to like for us, we didn't first time to Aotearoa, and for most of us, first time we've been able to meet the elders, to see what that is like and how incredible an opportunity, and you know, it's such a like an important moment in our time to be there and to partake and to witness for ourselves. So I just wanted to add that to Nainoa's introduction, and I think when we look back at the people that were there that made it happen, it is pretty awesome who was there and how everybody contributed to the experience. The people that were experienced maybe not only on the canoe, but in other ways to make everything all possible. Our crew selected for the voyage was like unreal, like super well trained, and you know, we had our best crew. So there is so much to be said about everything, and so I think that's pretty much my manao for now. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Uncle Shardy. I think the next section we wanted to really to look at, and maybe if you guys would share and reflect upon the actual voyage and leaving from Rarotonga and the ho'ailona, or the things that the elements. We don't always hear those stories of when you're on the ocean. We see the arrival, we see the departure more so. But what are those? Can any of you guys describe the sail from Rarotonga to Waitangi, and what do you remember most?
Stanley, you're great, man. Look like the guy that just passed away the other day. How's it, brother? As far as for me, my manao for this is that 35 years ago is a long time. Lot of talking about the trip and thinking about it. I've been asked, I don't know, many times about this trip, both here and in Rapa Nui, and also about there. But I kept telling them I never went to Rapa Nui. Only went to Aotearoa. But to me, that was one of the greatest voyages we ever made. I think for most of us, we didn't expect whatever we got when we went. because we talked about coal, we talked about foul weather gear, we talked about all kind of other stuff. My job was to make sure that everybody got fed right, got the right foul weather gear to wear, and you know, and so that everybody would be comfortable. We didn't run out of anything. I had to go to Rarotonga. I had a Hōkūleʻa to dry dock on land, and we brought her out and we started putting her together and getting her ready for the voyage. But it took us maybe about a month or so to get everything loaded and get the boat back in the water. And also for us, we had to wait in Rarotonga, as Kalepa was saying, and it took us a while to finally launch, and we left November 18th. The funny part about that was that I almost forgot to pay the taxes when we left. So we had to go down to the immigration and pay a tax for the crew so that we can get the hell out of Rarotonga. But all the way through the voyage, I felt the best part of the whole voyage. So when we got to the Kermadec, and we ran into all these whales. Stanley can remember that. But anyway, the whales, I think, were our signs that you guys are getting close to wherever you're supposed to go. But they stayed with us almost all day. They came up alongside the boat, they nudged the canoe, and they did everything. And then all of a sudden, at night, it got pitch-ass black, and they started lightning and all of this kind of stuff. But then later on, we saw the volcano in the water. And thanks to Stanley, we saw that, and we thought we were pretty close, because once we saw that, then we knew Aotearoa was right down the road. But I think that was almost a good part about the whole trip, was that seeing the whales and seeing a volcano in the water. I mean, if you haven't seen one in the water, well, there's one. And then coming in to Aotearoa, coming through the hole in the wall, and you could hear the canoe coming up, the war canoe, with all the people in it. And then we stopped to talk to everybody, and then we ate the last of the papayas and stuff because we couldn't take them on to security. And we finally got off. I sat out there till about 10 at night. And when you get shorts and t-shirt and just a light jacket on, it gets kind of cold over there. So people started throwing blankets at us. So and finally we were all kind of worried, you know. Jimmy Suzua leaned over and he said, "When these guys gonna stop talking?" I go, "I don't know, when somebody gets hungry, I guess, I don't know." So we just sat there and waited. And by the time we got to eat, I think it was maybe about 11 o'clock at night. But I think most of us didn't realize what we created. You know, it was history for all of us, and something that we're never going to forget. And then when Sir James Henare came up and gave that speech, this small guy just came up and he just rattled it off. He pointed out in the ocean and told everybody that, you know, all the things that they write about, so to speak, and all of that. He said, "But this is for real now." And these guys came all the way from Hawaii, came here. So, and he said that one day the Maoris are gonna sail back, and which they did. So I think the continuation of the voyaging is the true way to go. And I know it's the one that instituted all of this. He started this.
Oh, mahalo. Mahalo, Uncle Harry, for sharing that. That's actually the perfect segue into some mana'o surrounding the pōwhiri there at Te Tai Marae in Waitangi. And Sir James Henare, there's a couple of questions that's kind of all there. And so hopefully these questions will help to frame some of your folks' thoughts. And perhaps we could hear from some of the other gentlemen we haven't heard from yet. But thinking about the canoe arrival at the Bay of Islands, you shared some of the things that Sir James might have shared. If there's any others of you who can remember some significant things that he might have shared. Stanley, we just watched some footage of you, young Stanley, coming and challenging the guys as they put down the token down for the beginning of the pōwhiri, and watching you kind of run across, sprinting, and then even just talking about that, because I don't know that too many people would actually experience that in a pōwhiri, and probably might be something that's more pili to Te Tai Tokerau. So maybe we could start with you, Stanley.
I didn't realize that I couldn't go any further anyway.
Yeah.
It was a big laugh for these fellas over here watching this little black Māori fella running up and down the deck all scared as hell. Yeah, never felt like that in my life. Oh, well, that was the first time and that was the last time I ever got scared of things like that. But yeah, what an amazing voyage that we did at that time. Getting to the likes of the pōwhiri stuff. I think when I did that first, because that's tikanga and that's the sort of tikanga that we have in especially up the north for Ngāpui and stuff like that. That every time there's a kaitaki that comes from the manuhiri side, a challenge put down. Ngāpui tradition is we have a chaser that chases, but yeah, I'll never forget the day when the old fella Hector turned around and said to me, "Oh boy, you'll have to chase us." And I said, "Yeah." I remember turning around to him saying, "Man, the ground's moving. I don't know, the ground's rolling around on." And I was like feeling like that because I said I just got off the canoe and I still haven't got I still had the sea legs on, so I was a little bit sort of rolling around when I started running and chasing one of the kaitakis and picking up the challenge. But that's part of the tikanga that we run in Ngāpui area up in there. Is we always have a chaser that chases the challenger, and there's back in the times, if the chaser catches the kaitaki before he reaches the first line of defense, that's one up for the chaser. But if the chaser goes beyond the line of defense, then you end up becoming a part of the manuhiri's meal later on down the track. But that's the sort of kaupapa and tikanga that happens at those sort of pōwiris and stuff like that. Getting back to like what you said, Nainoa, about doing the voyage and not losing this again. I think one of my fondest memories of our voyage was I sat in the marae later on after all the pōwhiri and all the mihi-mihis and all the welcomes had been done, and I remember sitting in the marae. I don't know, I can't remember who was all sitting there. I think Clay was one of them, and the Billy was there, and I had to sit with my elders. They wanted to hear the stories. They wanted to hear the voyage about what I experienced on the voyage on Hōkūleʻa and coming from Rarotonga. And I remember talking a lot about what I saw in the night. They asked me about things about what you see in the night sky, and I sort of said, I could see the Orion's belt, and I could see the Southern Cross, and all these constellations that Nainoa was showing, and you guys were showing me. And I remember seeing my dad. It was my dad, Uncle Tupi, Uncle Himi, and they all sort of, I think Uncle Simon Snowden was there, looking at each other, and you could hear them talking amongst themselves. in Māori, and talking about, this is what's in the whakapapa that we talk about. This is what's in the whakapapa we teach, and this is in the stories and the waiata and all the genealogy stuff that's laid out. And for me, that time and moment, for them, they were like little kids sitting around an elder, and I was sort of the elder, and that was a time I'll never forget, because it gets back to this thing about our tupunas. Yes, our ancestors arrived here on our tupuna wakas, but then there's this huge gap between from my ancestors and to who we are now, what we've done. And the thing is, my mum, my dad, and our kaumātuas, my great-grandfathers, and all our elders that never had that opportunity of never got around to voyaging. And I think for them, that they felt like they voyaged themselves, but they actually physically never done it. But having the likes of myself and us arriving, Hōkūleʻa arriving, and you guys all arriving, they literally were on that voyage with those little stories I talked about what I saw, what I experienced. To them, they voyaged even though they physically didn't. And it answered a lot of their, for me, I think it answered a lot of their kōrero, a lot of their talk that they talked about in genealogy. And Uncle John Rangiha would talk about all. There are people that knew a lot about genealogy. My dad, Uncle Hector, Sir John Rangiha, Uncle Himi Henare, Uncle Tupi, Uncle Simon, Uncle Dan Few, all these kaumātus that are not around anymore. It answered a lot of their and it answered it, but also made them feel like, wow, what we've been talking about over the time this is it, And now I think for them, they rest feeling happy that they've been shown this thing that we've this voyage. That's why, to me, this voyage was one of the most, it is the most amazing and most important voyage for me, and for my people, for my area, because like you said, Nainoa, I had a lot on my shoulders, not realizing that there's early years, early days, early voyage I'd done, that first voyage, that I didn't realize at that time I was carrying the mana and the weight of my people on my shoulders. So I think that was, I realized, as I grew older, and realized, wow, what a great thing for myself that I did for my people, and carrying that weight and that mana with them, with me on that voyage. So and a huge thanks, an amazing voyage that we've done. With all you fellows, crikey, and those ones that are not around today. And I learned so much. And of course, thanks to you, Shorty, like all your mahi, all your knowledge and all your stuff you've taught me, all you guys have taught me through that voyage. I think it's laid a huge, it's made this amazing journey that I'm doing, and the amazing journey that we're doing with our wakas today, and what's happened here. So awesome.
Mahalo nui, Stan, for sharing all of that, and then just the affirmation for your kaumatua to know that the things that they've been talking about and that they probably had from their kupuna were intact. By you taking this journey, you helped them to affirm those things. So mahalo so much for sharing that. And then I think Uncle Bruce, we'll go right back to you again. You were going to let us know about your experiences as well.
Yeah, I was starting to go back and reflect on 1975 when they were building the canoe, and it was just such an amazing effort and vision. And in 76, the voyage to Tahiti in its time, at that time, was massive. It was huge. I mean, there was so much unknown. It was real pioneering stuff, rediscovery. Because there was really no one had done that route, in hundreds of years, in this style. Yeah, there are guys that sail back and forth, but this was a whole different endeavor. And then coming home and then continuing up to that point, and then going beyond that point, to Rarotonga, which, for myself, I didn't even know anything about Rarotonga, where it is. Yeah, I didn't know anything about Aotearoa. So, getting back to that, when you arrive at Aotearoa, Rarotonga, and beautiful island, they were putting a canoe, Hōkūleʻa, back in the water, and the guy who was like the foreman over there, the Rarotongan gentleman, talking to the crane operator, giving him all his directions of what to do, all in Rarotongan and stuff, all in Maori, or Rarotongan Maori. And I'm sitting there watching these guys talk Maori and then get everything done. And it was very foreign. It did that kind of stuff is not happening on Oahu. So we get it done, and then the sail itself, just like it was mentioned, was an amazing sail. The leadership on board, with Shorty as a captain, and Nainoa and Leon, and was really awesome. And then arriving at Aotearoa, and we're talking, just taking in the beauty of the Bay of Islands. It's an amazing place. And then you hear this chanting, coming off from a distance. He said, "Oh, what the heck is that?" And then you see the canoe and the white, the hoy, from the canoe, the paddlers, the white just flashing, in the distance. And they come alongside, and shucks, the canoe is longer than Hōkūleʻa. And you got a ton of people paddling, and you got Hector and the other chiefs walking in between everybody, giving them directions and stuff. Was really this whole thing, you're stepping back in time, but you're functioning in the present and stuff, and you're making that connection. That was really amazing. And then getting carried on land, and then going through the whole thing, and as a whole, so many new experiences and stuff like that. But along the way, it's just all the connections. Like when we were in Rarotonga, sitting down in the evening and listening to Sir James Henare and Tupi and them talk about the voyage and their history and their background, and then getting to Aotearoa and is sitting there and then listening to Sir James Henare, is he really didn't think we were going to make it. A little bit of that, because it's so, there's so many things that are foreign to so many people. Like, he wasn't an ocean guy. He knew his people came by the Waka. He knew we were going by the Waka, but it's kind of like, this hasn't happened in hundreds of years. And, but it set a whole new paradigm shift in, everybody's thinking, just like Hōkūleʻa did when she came home in 76. Because that canoe was only built for one voyage. It was built to go to Tahiti and come home. That was it. But there was a paradigm shift there where, that wasn't really acceptable after all that went down, with the voyage. So it's been awesome. I don't know, getting to Aotearoa was huge in so many ways. But, like Kalepa had stated about, the planning of it all and going and then taking all that and seeing it all to a successful end and stuff in every phase of that voyage of rediscovery was awesome. But anyway, that connection in Aotearoa was again, it was a real shift in relationships, in possibilities, in this whole larger voyage. And I'll leave it there. Yeah.
Oh, mahalo, Bruce. It's beautiful. I mean, mahalo for painting the picture of coming into the Bay of Islands, hearing the leo of the kupuna and the kaiaulu of Aotearoa chanting to you guys and seeing Natoki, and to talk about the shift and the impact that's had on you and on so many of us. I mean, that it brings us to our next kind of ninau, and this is kind of really open for whoever wants to take it, because there's a lot to this. But the impact of this 85 voyage and how it's impacted your life, your work. What is the impact of this sixth tribe that was given that name? I mean, this is the first canoe to arrive in Aotearoa in many, many years, and that honor of being named the sixth tribe of the Tai Tokerau. And legacy. We think about legacy of Papa Heck, of Mao, of Pinky, and the impact that this voyage had, even for us here at Ka'iwa Kilo Moku. The dream and vision of the center was born on that huaka'i when Uncle Pinky was at Te Timarai and observing the Tamari'i with such pride in their culture and language, these young Maori keiki, and he says, we need this back at home. And look at the impact that's had. And we're here discussing this today because of this wave and impact. And so I think about that, and I think about all of the amazing work that you guys do today, continuing this legacy. Would any of you like to touch upon that, the impact that this 85 voyage had to Waitangi on your life and your work?
I guess I'll go, Leana. Answering the question of the impact that the voyage had. I mean 1985, right? That was like it was a time in the Renaissance of voyaging where we were reaching out to really the farthest corners of the Polynesian Triangle. It was about having a bold dream and then chasing after it. I just go back to what Nainoa, shared with us or with me, that the cruise kind of spoiled our lives. It's provided us guys with too much adventure, and it's really, it's kind of provided this lens that we synthesize all our experiences through. It's if we're not doing things that are really at the forefront of what we can imagine, then is it really worth our investment of time and our investment of effort? So in that way, the 1985 voyage kind of opened up the doors as to reaching out to the farthest corner of the Polynesian Triangle, as kind of like this reaching out to the farthest corner of your imagination of what you can achieve. So it's had a profound impact on my life in terms of my profession, the work that I do, the stances I take
stanzas that I believe in, and I'm motivated to advocate for. I am very confident in who I am today as an individual, and that comes from being on the canoe. It comes from being living among people who are quite frankly my heroes, who are brave, you know, and so that has been the greatest influence on my life. That has been the greatest motivator for wanting to serve our community. So, and you know, and taking apart in the history when things are happening, like when we're being told that we're not a sixth tribe of Te Tai Tokerau, I don't at that moment I don't realize the significance of it because I'm just a participant in it. But you know, now 20, 25, I don't know how many years later, you know, now you realize, wow, now you realize you did something pretty impactful and was a matter of influence. And so, and I have been privileged to have known people like Mao, like Pinky, and like Hector, those are, and I don't mean to prop them up on a pedestal, but those are people that are worthy of my admiration, because they are leaders that are uncompromising in their values or the things they advocate for. And so that's been such a powerful influence on my life as to the kind of steadfastness I need to demonstrate in my own life if I'm gonna serve my community in any kind of a meaningful way. So I will wave back my time.
Mahalo Kalepa. Mahalo. Would any others like to talk about impact this voyage has had on you and yourself, your families, your work?
If I could, for me, it's long term, kind of like what Kalepa says. There's gratitude, and for being able to live the kind of life that we've led because of Hōkūleʻa and his leadership. And the long-term effect, you know, like the Pōwhiri, when we arrived in the Pōwhiri, one of the things I like to share is I was standing next to Harry Ho, and along with Harry Ho was Tava, and Tava was wearing his Speedos, and so the people were coming up to challenge, and Tava takes out a bottle full of coconut oil, takes off his jacket and starts to oil down, and then gets into a position of I'm gonna challenge these guys, you know. And I think it was Harry that looked at him and said, "Hey, don't do that. They will get mad." And stuff. But you know, when you think about it, because we were so unfamiliar with the Pōwhiri process, Tava had the correct response. You know?
Billy, I was standing next to Tava, and he started to do that, and I grabbed his hand and I told him, "Hey, bro, this is not our fight; it's theirs."
Yeah, it was unreal. But relative to that, you know, so long-term impact. Yeah, the Hōkūleʻa has had quite the impact on our culture and our people. Languages came back. Charter schools are here based on our culture. There's so much that has happened since the launch of Hōkūleʻa. And one of the things that happened as a result of the Pōwhiri was there was a part of the group that came with the Polynesian Voyaging Society who was Richard Puglinowan. And he years later, during the time when we were building Hawaii law under the Native Culture and Arts program, he was influenced by that Pōwhiri to bring back lua, you know, to show us that we too were a warrior people and we should understand that. And then we too would know where our mountain was, what our wind is, you know, mine is Malanai, for instance, and all. But we learned that from being there in Aotearoa. The ability to understand who you are based upon where you come from, to me, was taught by Hector. When we talked about Ngāti Ruawāhia, in 1995, when the canoes came out and Te Aurere came up with Stanley and the crew, I asked again, because he had mentioned it sometime before, but I asked Hector, so Ngāti Ruawāhia, who are we? And he said, your waka is Hōkūleʻa. Your Ngāti is Ruawāhia. Your mountain is Puketu. Your river is Te Awapoko, and your ocean is Tai Tokerau. And I hold that dearly to me. And it's a place for all of us who have been to Aorere. It's all right there. It's all right there, right in front of us. And, you know, and that's what I carry. That's the impact I carry in Hector's memory, you know, in his name, because he gifted us with so much, and you know, like I said, I go back to that. My original thought is that that whole voyage to Aotearoa was filled with gifts, and I'll leave it at that for others to take over. Mahalo.
So we travel to these places throughout the Pacific and the world. And they're very unique places. They have the unique beauty, and they have a lot to offer as far as native wisdoms, local wisdom, and the way to do things, and the way they care for their land. The beauty is to be able to take what we learn from these other places and adapt it, and we try and find that way to embrace others to like move forward. I mean, you know, the Hawaiians, they always had that capacity.
Ngāti Ruawāhia, Ngāti Ruawāhia, I ka ale kai, ka ale I, ka ale moe, ka ale ona motu e tu mai e tu tamai ka pola o ka waa kaulua me ka hanui, ka haloa, ka hahoonga. E hātiro mai o e ia unei la, e hātiro mai o e ia unei la, e Ngāti Ruawāhia, e Ngāti Ruawāhia, I ka ale kai, ka ale I, ka ale moe, ka ale ona motu e tu mai e tu tamai ka pola o ka waa kaulua me ka hanui, ka haloa, ka hahoonga. E hātiro mai o e ia unei la, e hātiro mai o e ia unei la, e Ngāti Ruawāhia, e Ngāti Ruawāhia. Come on,
Well, what a special conversation we had today with our voyaging heroes. We'd like to thank the original 1985 Hōkūleʻa crew that landed in Waitangi. Their courageous achievements sparked the beginning of our rich Hawaiian Maori tribal heritage, Ngāti Ruawāhia. To enjoy even more conversation with the crew, stick around after the show for selected highlights from today's panel discussion. And remember, this is just part 1.
All right, coming up in part 2, we'll be joined by our Maori whānau and our ohana for an exciting tribute dedicated to one of our beloved guiding elders, Sir Hector Busby Puhipi Busby. You won't want to miss the next episode.
Meanwhile, don't forget to visit our website at kaiwakilomoku.ksbe.edu to learn more about Ngāti Ruawāhia and so much more. Check out the Pacific Conversations webpage and enjoy our new podcast series, Offshoot Commentaries, featuring thoughtful Pacific insights.
We'll see you all soon for Ngāti Ruawāhia Part 2, a tribute to Sir Hector Busby. Until then, o Leana Kanua Wong ke ia.
Ai a o wau ke ia o Snowbird Puanani o Pauakalani Bento. Mahalo for joining us for Pacific Conversations. Ahui ho!
Ia uneila e Ngāti Ruawāhia.